Today, I'm going to cover how I got the panel display showing live QR codes. Getting this to work was a little bit troublesome, primarily because I'm not very familiar at all with the Adafruit library for the Matrix Portal M4. So, it was a lot of trial and error. The first thing I tried was the Python QR code library. My plan was just to download it and copy and paste it into the directory. And while that worked, it basically failed because of a memory issue. They didn't have enough memory to allocate the actual library. I also tried the Signal library, and it had basically the same issue where there was not enough memory to actually allocate it. As it turns out, there's actually just already a library built in called Adafruit_mini QR. So after probably an hour or two of messing around with the other libraries, I discovered that it's just built in. So this is what I did to get it working. Using the library is actually pretty easy. What you do is you just import Adafruit Mini QR, then you'll just create a new object QR code, and then you'll add your data. In my case, I added a URL. And then I wanted it to be different every iteration of the loop. So what I did was I just added on this I, which is the index of the current range. In order to actually concatenate it to this string, we needed to encode it as a binary. And so that's what we're doing here. We're casting the integer into a string, and then we're encoding it into binary. And then you call QR make. Now, getting the QR code to actually display was a whole nother challenge. And this is what I did. So on the Adafruit website, there is this example thing, and you need to, it's all very confusing. So the main code I used was from this Game of Life, but it's not actually for the Matrix Portal, the code itself. So you need to modify it slightly. And to do that, you'll go to connecting using a Matrix Portal, and you'll use this information for the display IO and for the matrix and for the display. Once I figured it out, that was a lot more smooth sailing. For the actual code, you'll see I copied over that part of it into the editor. Then I enabled auto refresh to true. You'll want to do this. And basically how that will work is every time you update your bitmap, is going to refresh the screen. In our case, we want a palette of 2 colors, and this was about 5 minutes of trouble. I did not set this, so this is an array of 2, and I didn't realize that you need to specify another color because they're all set to black by default. So once I added this line in, this is just hex 555555. And once I did that, then I actually got my QR code to display. Now the QR code example code that I'm using worked a little bit differently when you actually run this function down here. Before, you only passed in this matrix and it would return a bitmap. Now I modified this because I don't want to recreate this bitmap every time. So what I basically did was I instead extracted up here. So I set my display IO bitmap to this variable. Then I create a display IO tile grid, and I pass in this bitmap variable, which we're going to update and not replace every iteration. And then I set the X and Y to be 0. The next thing is we have this group, and I went ahead and set the scale to 2 because the QR code is a little small. It's about 50% too small. It takes up about 1/4 of the screen. So I set the scale to 2, and then it took up the whole screen. And then we want to take our tile grid and add it into our group. We then want to set the root group to be our group that we created right here. So to actually update the bitmap, then what we do is inside of this function, if we scroll all the way up here, we'll see it's very simple. We have this border pixel, but the main idea is that we're iterating over the matrix, which is the matrix for the QR code itself. And we're going to scan the width and the height. And then if the matrix has a value, we're going to update the bitmap that we passed in at that position. And and we're going to set equal to 1, else we're going to set equal to 0. And that's it. It looks pretty simple. The whole thing is only 70 lines of code, but it probably took a good 4 hours to get to this point. But I think I'm really starting to get a hang of how the library kind of works and how we can manipulate the screen to do what we want.